God, I would love to. Yeah. I mean, I really, being an actor primarily for 20 plus years now, it's like I've been on so many sets. You don't have much control as an actor. You kind of come in, you do your thing, and then you leave and you watch the end product, whatever, a year later sometimes. But this was like, from the beginning of the conception of the idea and writing the whole thing, and then, going into pre-production and seeing that side of things, which I never get to see. Obviously, being on set was like quite familiar to me, but being in behind the camera was it was fascinating, and then all the way through to post-production, I just found it to be such a learning experience, and but extremely gratifying. Yeah, I'd love to do it again. I just finished the first draft of a new movie that I would love to direct as well. So, we'll see where it goes, but certainly, I learned so much from doing Marmalade, and, especially doing smaller films where time and money are always an obstacle, but, they're sort of a beautiful obstacle as well, that you find if you surround yourself with the right collaborators, it's like you really have to get inventive and think about things in a whole different light. Because as an actor, I've been on sets like that have nothing but time and money. And it's like, so many times that is either wasted or it's like, it's just not necessary a lot of the time. So it's kind of fun to put yourself into some limitations. So yeah, I'd love to do, things of all ranges. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over a 20-year acting career, I've worked with so many different directors, right? From legends like Clint Eastwood and, Michael Bay, and the list goes on, all the way to, first-time directors as well. So I've sort of like, picked and choose little tidbits along the way, and but also working with a variety of different actors. I've seen different processes. I've seen sort of, what works for me and what works for other people. And that was like a massive advantage going into this, because, I think a lot of times first-time directors, there's this kind of fear of working with actors and kind of, understanding that language. And that was very secondhand to me. It was like, what works for this person is not going to work for this other person. So it was kind of, trying to figure that out very early on, and then you're kind of off to the races. I had shot Ambulance that Michael Bay directed, like, shortly before we went into pre-production on Marmalade. So I was coming off of that, which was like, a wildly different film in a lot of senses. But, working with Michael, he has this like childlike spirit, and he just wants to like film and shoot, and like he loves the process of it all, So it was kind of like infectious seeing that he. There's never a wasted moment. There's never a wasted setup. It's like, you're on this thing that it's like a high budget film, but he's shooting it like it's an independent film. He's like, oh, the light is good, let's set that up, and everyone's kind of scrambling. And as an actor, you're never sitting down. You're sort of like, he has the whole cast at his disposal. He's like, here, come here right now, and I'm like, what are we shooting? He's like, I don't know, just look over there, the sun is nice. And so it's like, half the time you're sort of confused and wondering what's happening. And then you see the final product and you're like, oh, wow, like he really, he held true to this sort of vision. He was just getting like little bits and pieces kind of manically. So I found that to be like really fascinating, and certainly utilized that a lot. Yeah, I've always loved a good heist movie, obviously. So that was the sort of, the inspiration came from movies that I've loved over the years, especially, movies of the late 80s and 90s, and this kind of, big pulpy sort of like colorful characters, stylized, but with substance, and sort of some fun twists along the way. We always pitch the movie as Raising Arizona meets True Romance. So that was kind of like, okay, it's this sort of
I'm laughing because that's spot on,
Yeah, right. Nice. Cool. That's that was kind of always those were always the go-tos that were, those movies were so influential to me, just as my sort of like creative compass. But like that was like tonally and sort of visually sort of what we were aiming for. Yeah. Yeah, no question. I mean, I think just like everybody else, you're sort of like, who is that guy? Like, he's amazing. And, and Joe's still quite early on in his career, comparatively. When I first met with Joe, he's like, I'm flattered, man, but like, why did you think of me? Like I haven't done anything sort of quite like this yet. And I said, well, he just has this sort of sincerity to all of his performances, right? He has a vulnerability and kind of this a sweetness, that we needed for the role of Baron. So, I knew that sending him the script, he was either going to be like not interested or like, yes, finally, like someone's going to see me outside of the box of the things that he's done so far. So, he was such a great collaborator, and then we got to work on the accent and the look of the character, and then sure enough, it was like he just has this genuineness that he brings to the role that's essential. I think my most like sort of memorable role today, it was obviously Todd from Wedding Crashers, I think, and that's sort of what put me on the map. It was kind of like hitting the lottery, getting that role. It's my first movie. So like, I will always have a fondness for that part, for good old Todd, but also, for that experience and what it meant to me and what it taught me and everything else. And, there's that. I also, a role I'm incredibly proud of is Fargo season 2. That was just like such a joy, and met some really great friends on that, and just the writing and everything was just so magnificent. Yeah, I mean, just doing that, writing, and then jumping back into some acting stuff. I'm gonna go work on Mayor of Kingston with Jeremy Renner for a bit, so that'll be fun. And yeah, a couple other things in the pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, he had that, horrifying accident,
Yeah, yeah.
So it sounds like he's back in action now. Like,
Back in action, man, what a trooper. And he's a guy, I met him years ago just briefly, but certainly like an actor's actor and someone that I'm dying to work with. So I'm thrilled to be jumping in there.